What?
It's only 6:33. Why is somebody there already?
It's there. Well, I can just. By continuing to the meeting, you are consented to be recorded. No, it's not.
They can hear you.
Not yet. Because I did not click on yet. I did not consent. Oh. Guess where the newspaper is? In the barn.
Nice. How, you can't get in there now, the cats are there. They'll come running out. Just leave it there. Go get it in the morning. Oh, come out, you won't be able to get them back in.
No, it's not.
Hello. Do I need the what left in the kitchen? The folding? Oh, no, I don't need it. No, that was Linda. Yeah, that was the project that I did today in Suffield. That's fine. I didn't mean to leave it there, but thanks for letting me know. Did you see she gave me a banana bread? Yeah. I'm doing a Zoom meeting, but my briefcase and computer was here at the office at Air Talks. So I just decided to do just as well to do the meeting from here. That way you can watch TV. You don't have to worry about making noise or stuff. No, it's a virtual meeting. Yep. So yeah, it really is nice to have an office. I talked to Eric today and he said he talked to John and they said that they wanted $300 a month for the office. Unless I thought that was too much, and then whatever I thought was fair would be fine. But $300 is a bargain. I mean, Jesus, it is pretty awesome. It's so nice. Well, I'm doing a bunch of excavation for them this spring, and I'm just gonna pay like for. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess I could. Yeah, I guess it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. But I mean, I'll pay him for at least a year. That's what I told him. I've already done some work. I did a couple of utility trenches, and I mean, I'm not going to charge him for it. I'll charge him for materials, but no, but the rest of it, I'm just going to put against the office. That way, I don't have to think about paying him. So yeah, no, I'm very pleased with that. That's great. Yep, and I told you, I still haven't talked to Dr. Cherry, but he said I have nothing but good news. So just, I'm not worried. That sounds pretty awesome. Yeah, so I don't know. He may still want to do, I don't know. He probably, there could be information that he wants to share, but it sounds like I don't have cancer anyway. So that's a good thing. That kind of made my day. Yeah, that's all we need now, She's like Carl. There's what? There. Yeah, it's tough. Yeah, yeah. All right. Yeah. Yep. I don't think this meeting will take long. It's Luther Brush and the greenhouse project is the only thing on the agenda. So I suspect I'll be home 7:30, 7:45 at the latest. Okay. All right. Okay. See ya. Bye. Bye.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me?
Hi, Lenny. Peter here.
Hey.
Hi,
Rick,
Len, it's Rick.
how you doing, Rick?
Good, I'm doing good. How are you doing?
Good.
Good, good.
Peter,
Hey, this is Bob Broussard. I'm here.
Yeah.
Mike,
Here.
Bob, great. Okay, got one more minute. Been a long time since we had a meeting.
That's okay.
Okay, 7 o'clock. So we'll open the Ashford Inland Wetland Watercourse Commission's regularly scheduled meeting for Tuesday, April 5th at 7 PM. Item number 1 is the seating of alternates. So Bob, if you could sit for Jack Barkley,
Sure.
would be good. I mean, Mike, not Bob. Mike.
No
You sit
problem, Mike.
For Jack. Okay, did everybody get a copy of the minutes from the December 7th meeting?
Len, I'm just letting you know that Cheryl said she's here, but she can't hear anybody, so she's just changing computers, so she'll be back.
Okay. So, well, we'll give her a minute. So there was a copy of the December 7th meeting in the information we were given. So it was a pretty short meeting. So does anybody have any questions or comments about the December 7th meeting? No?
No,
Would anyone like to make a motion to approve them as written?
All right, this is Peter. I'll make a motion that they be approved as
Okay.
presented.
And second, Rick?
yeah, I'll second it.
Okay. So now, Joe, I don't see Valerie here. Would you mind taking notes for us?
Yeah,
know.
I guess.
Thank you. Okay. All right. So all those, did I say all those in favor of?
Aye.
Aye.
Hang on, Lenny. Hang on, Lenny. You should have told me that before you guys had made all your motions.
I know, I just noticed it. So Peter made the motion, Rick seconded it, and everybody said yes. I don't see Cheryl here, but we still have 4 people, so. Okay.
Yep.
Oh, and we sat an alternate, so Mike is sitting in for Jack Barkley.
Mike Dietz for Jack.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so item 3 is additions to the agenda. Joe, are there any additions we got to make?
None.
Okay. Item 4 is old business. Any old business anybody knows about? None?
I just had a question if anybody had heard anything or there was follow-up on with the masonry business here on Route 74.
Yeah.
I'll
I'll
address that in my agent's report.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Thanks, Joe.
Okay. So no further old business. We'll move to item 5, which is new business. So we do have an application. Is there anybody here that's representing the applicant today?
Hi, folks. My name's Luther Brauk. I'm here for the applicant. They're my in-laws, and unfortunately, my father-in-law is feeling poorly and isn't able to join us. So I'm going to be going ahead and letting you guys know what the project details are tonight.
Okay. So let's we'll start.
Len, can I interrupt for a minute?
Sure. Yeah.
Sorry, I did the wetland delineation for this project, so I'd like to
Okay.
recuse myself from this.
All right. So Rick's recusing himself, which but we still have 4, right? We got Mike, me, Cheryl, and Peter, so we can still keep going. Okay. So well, Joe, why don't you just give us a very quick overview of what the project's about, if you could.
Well, you guys all have copies of the plans, obviously, but for the meat and potatoes of it is 6 greenhouses are being proposed. For the most part, all the activity, entire activity is in the upland review area. I see no proposed grading or filling in wetlands. It's my opinion that because this is a agricultural activity, that it falls within the purviews of Section 4 of your regulations as a permitted use as of right. Taking a look at the grading and the drainage, there's quite a impressive stormwater report. I noticed, I'm looking at the plans now, that they have a subgrade detention system, a storm tech unit, which is it's basically a direct infiltration of stormwater. It's one of the newer ways that they're dealing with stormwater now, instead of just letting it all run off into a big detention basin and then go into wetlands. Aside from that, we got Luther here, so I'm sure he can fill you in a lot better than I can.
Okay. All right. So, what is how are the greenhouses constructed? I see there is some sort of building plan, but Rick or Luther, one of you could tell me, what are they made up of? Can you give me I know there's up to 6, so you don't have to do all 6. Is that what you're saying?
So this is Luther. Our intention is to do the 6 greenhouses with the utility building that's attached, all as one project. The greenhouses are a steel framed structure mounted to a concrete frost wall, very similar to most non-basement type buildings. They have it's a double wall plastic covering that gives us an R value on the greenhouses, so that we can be a little bit more responsible with energy use. And yeah, the other building is a sort of standard steel frame building with steel siding.
Okay, and you're bringing utilities down there? You're gonna have water, septic?
Yep. So we're gonna have power come in from the service on Varga. We're gonna run that down the middle of our driveway access to minimize disturbance. We're going to have one well on site for irrigation. We're going to have a septic that will be run through Eastern Highlands for design approval and for management for the installation of that. We're not discharging water from the operations into the septic or into the drainage field or anything. Any wash water from washing the produce is actually being captured, filtered, and introduced into the irrigation needs for the facility, so that we're not wasting water and we're not needlessly discharging water.
So is this going to be a 12-month operation, and what are you going to be growing?
So the plan for the project is to grow organic produce in soil in these greenhouses. So these greenhouses aren't what many people might think of as a greenhouse. They're actual soil beds laid inside the foundation walls, and we plant directly into those soil beds. And we're going to be growing things like microgreens. We're going to be growing things like baby arugula, beets, radishes. If there's other market demands, we'll grow those produce items, and the like. And so then this will be a year-round operation. We expect that we will, there's the greenhouse portion for growing. There's an attached building that the produce is going to move into for washing and packaging. Cold storage, we'll have to have a on-site cold storage for FDA compliance. And then we will distribute the food to the customer's distribution resources. It's not going to be a on-farm pickup sort of thing. It's not going to be a retail operation. It's simply going to be growing food, washing it, packaging it, and then sending it out to the consumer.
And how many employees are going to be there?
We estimate about 12 people total.
Okay, so you'll have some traffic on your road, and you have parking for everybody. Building a parking lot, or
No,
how?
the parking's depicted on the site plan. It's located in the southeast corner, immediately adjacent to the perimeter road that runs around the facility for fire access. That's going to be the parking plan for the workforce and for visitors.
It'd be gravel, or because you're going
Everything
over
is
an
gonna be
existing.
gravel. So,
Yeah.
so there's an existing road bed. There's an existing farm road that comes in from Varga and comes 80% of the way to this greenhouse collection. So that's already there. It may require periodic maintenance, but the road bed's already there. It's been in use for dozens of years. We'll have all the traffic coming and going through there.
Okay. All right, and so how much area are we using, for the greenhouses, the attached building, the parking area? How is that, the 3 acres, or?
So the
what I read?
buildings, so to give you the other general context of the project. So, this farm, this is on Varga Road. So it's at the family farm. Like I said, my name's Luther. Dennis and Sylvie are my in-laws. They own the property. The property's 213 acres. It's a farm in conservation, so it can only be used for agricultural purposes. And this project will have 3.12 acres of greenhouse and support building, or about 1.47% of the property total landmass. Siting was done carefully to not have construction or excavation or impact to wetlands. We have a 0 square feet projection of impact to wetlands. We felt very strongly that we wanted to do that. We're not intercepting rainwater for use in irrigation or any of those things. As Joe mentioned, we're running the StormTech subsurface stormwater management. And then we're running a discharge control system through the plunge pool and level spreaders, and all the water that would normally go to the wetlands will continue to eventually go to the wetlands to support the hydrological cycle. We're not interested in having a negative impact whatsoever to wetlands or to the property at large, because we live here, we love this place, we've put a lot into this property.
Okay, so the way I'd like to try to handle this tonight is we'll continue the explanation of exactly what this project entails. Then we'll talk about wetlands, and then we'll talk about the as of right use. So I have no more questions about the physical part of the plan. So I want to go around the room now. Mike, if you have any questions just pertaining to the physical parts of this project.
Sure, thanks, Len. Yeah, I do have a question. Hi, Luther, Mike Dietz. Excuse me, you mentioned about the stormwater detention system. Joe also mentioned it as a detention system, and talked about it infiltrating all the water. I just want to clarify, because on the stormwater report, it talks about it as detention, and typically with detention, there's no infiltration of water. It's just temporary storage to reduce the peak flow rate and meter it out over a longer period of time. So I'd just like to clarify if you're talking about infiltrating water in that system, or if it is planned to temporarily detain it, that's the way that it's written, and then discharge it out to those points that are indicated.
Sure, Mike, thanks for the question. So these devices, which there's some detailed drawings of them further in the plans, are an open bottom device, and their installation calls for a specific grade of stone to be laid 12 inches deep under them. The primary row of chambers will also function as a sediment trap, so that stone is then covered in 2 layers of filter fabric for retention of the fine sediments, the suspended solids. And then the secondary row of chambers is receiving effectively clean stormwater at that point. So I think it's fair to say that there's a marginal amount of infiltration through the open floor stone design of the way these chambers are put in. However, you're correct in noting that there is discharge from these chambers, and that discharge is metered through a discharge control device, through the scour hole, and then through a level spreader, so that we're not introducing water into the environment at a more rapid pace than pre-developed rates. Is that adequate?
Thanks. Yeah, that's fine for that question. And just to clarify, it was, I can see where the other impervious surfaces besides the greenhouses themselves are directed into that system with the catch basins and pipes. That's pretty clear. But it wasn't obvious to me whether the roof runoff from those buildings was going to be collected and put into that system as well, or are you having that shed off and fall into those spaces between the buildings and ultimately just wash off that site? So I'm just wondering if you could give me a little info on that.
Yeah. So, and again, a good question. You'll notice there's basins located center line on the eastern portion of the site between each greenhouse. And so when final grade is established, it's going to be a combination of those 2 principles. So there will be rainfall that leaves the roof of the greenhouses and falls on the grass surfaces between the greenhouses. And then if that is not absorbed or infiltrated into the area between the greenhouses, any surface water would be collected by the basins at the eastern end of that space between the greenhouses, captured and introduced into the system for discharge.
Okay. Thanks, Luther.
Okay, thanks, Mike. Peter, do you have any questions about the plan itself?
No,
Peter?
right now, everything has been answered, and I think this would be a good addition to the town of Ashford to have this here.
Oh, thanks for that, Peter.
Okay. Thank you, Peter. Cheryl, do you have any questions or comments?
No.
Okay. Rick, I know you're recused yourself, but if you feel like you could add anything more to the comments that have been made so far, as the physical aspects of this project, that you could, do it now, please.
Certainly. Thanks, Len. Yeah, I didn't have any role in the development or the planning of this, but I did do the wetland delineation. Initially, I did a wetland delineation to the west of the field that this project is going to be in. And then we found that the wetlands were all wooded wetlands. They're basically a ridgeberry, poorly drained soil. There is a pretty good slope, and they go right to the edge of the pond, which is Leander Pond. It's a pretty good sized pond. So I think that the wetlands are quite a ways away. I don't know what the actual distance is. Luther, you probably could help me with that, but it's well over 100 feet. There's no question about that.
Yeah, we've got a pretty significant separation. Our nearest point, and I'm going to say the closest point of the roadway, right? So that we're not trying to, so the roadway, the nearest point of the wetlands is sort of at the southwest corner almost of the installation. And I'm sorry, I said east earlier, Mike, when I was answering your question about those basins, and I meant west, so I apologize. We're a little over 50 feet from the road edge, the proximal road edge to the wetlands. We're a little over 50 feet from that tightest point to the wetlands. The bulk of it is, as Rick said, closer to 100 feet of distance. Our nearest building, again, is in that same vicinity, is about 75 feet from that one portion of wetlands that jogs east. That's sort of the southwest corner.
Yeah, so I actually did two separate delineations. Then I really was speaking just about the delineation to the west. And because it gets fairly steep, my opinion is that the only thing at risk really to the west is the Leander Pond, which is Luther's prized possession. So if he's going to pollute anything, it's going to be his own pond. So it's a pretty good distance, and I can't imagine there would be any negative impact from this operation on that side. Joe walked the lot and the area and asked that the wetlands on the north and east were delineated. So I went back and did a second delineation. And that delineation brought us a little bit closer to the field, the subject field, than the Krog wetland picture shows, which is this. I don't know. Yeah, I think you guys have this as well. So it is closer, and I do think that 50 feet is a pretty good estimate as to what that is. That particular wetland has been crossed by a roadway, so it's been bisected. There is a culvert in place. It's been there for a very long time. I think that's the way PECs and people before PECs access those they're large fields. So that's been in place for quite some time. The road is not technically wetlands. I delineated the wetlands on either side of the road, but the road is out. Those are also ridgeberry. Those are your typical boggy kind of wetlands. They're also ridgeberry, poorly drained soils. There is a fair amount of standing water in some sections in there. But that, again, is, I would say, well over 100 feet from this proposed activity, the standing water itself. I think that's a pretty good summary. There's a fair number of flags out there. And that second delineation was a little tougher than the first one. But it's done, and I think in general, I'm well aware of what Luther intends to do out there, and I honestly believe that this is not going to have any negative impact whatsoever on the wetlands.
So the site that you've chosen, and it looks like there is quite a lot of grade change. How many cubic yards of material and how many trees and all that are we going to be looking at?
Well, that's I can tell you, roughly we're looking at about 40,000 yards for grading. We're not bringing in any material. We're not hauling out material. This is a neutral plan. So the goal for the plan was to utilize on-site resources and not have to truck in and not have to truck out. We're probably looking at about 2.5 to 3.5 acres of forest land that we're going to have to clear. It's all fairly immature forest. This is an area that was grazed, as near as we can tell, was grazed up to who knows when, but a lot of the trees are smaller in size than other portions of our farm. There's a lot of sub 10-inch tree mass in this area. So that was a factor for the selection of this site, is that it was a slightly less mature, slightly less robust forest environment.
Okay. So, what about the trees when you take them down and you're pulling out the stumps? What's your plan for all that?
We plan on grinding all of that. So my belief anyway is that we would certainly never bury debris on site. I can't abide that. We would be grinding those, any woody or plant matter that is not got value, that can't have value added and sold or repurposed, would be run through a tub grinder type machine, reduced to a chip type product. And then from there, we have to make some determinations as to whether that's something that we try to compost, whether that's something that we simply just send off site for someone else to be able to utilize, or whether that's something we can repurpose.
So now the driveway itself, are you gonna need to widen it? And I know that, you said it only went like 80%. So that means you're gonna have to grade the rest of it. You're bringing in gravel, you boxing it out. Is it sloped? How are you gonna be constructing the driveway?
Yep. So the driveway will where it transitions from hard surface to soft. We'll have to box that out. We'll have to bring in a suitable base and a suitable driving surface for fire trucks, for delivery vehicles, for regular traffic. That material that we box out is going to be used on site as part of the project. We don't expect that we're going to have to widen the driveway surface. We think that we have several places along the driveway where there's very good line of sight to pull-offs. So if we had competing traffic needs, we'd be able to have a turn taking sort of a scenario. Most people are pretty reasonable about that. And to be fair, this farm road that runs through here is probably passable by 2 vehicles at a time. It's a reasonable road surface.
Okay. So just to get back on track as far as wetlands goes, Mike, do you have any questions about wetland delineation or anything along those lines?
Not about the wetlands themselves, the delineation. No, I do have some questions for next time, perhaps, about potential impacts to those wetlands, but no technical questions at this point.
Okay, Peter, do you have any questions about wetland delineation or impacts?
No, it sounds like Rick has covered everything.
Okay. Cheryl, how about you? Wetland related questions?
Yeah, I just actually had one question, Rick, about the difference. I have a hard copy of the plan because my eyes go better with that than on the computer. And I just noticed that there's a pretty significant difference between your flagging and the GIS, the deep hydric soil boundary that's listed on the plan. Can you just talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I have seen quite an array of differences between GIS and Deep's wetland delineations and mine. I think that for the most part, I think we can consider the product that the GIS provides it to be more of a delineation from an airplane. So surprisingly, I have done delineations. I just did one in East Windsor last week, and it was dead on. But that's very rare. But they don't often match well. They can, and in some cases they can go either way. I've done delineations in areas that had shown huge wetlands, and they're just not wetlands. I mean, I've seen situations where they've been far less, and I've seen situations where they've been far more. So I never really use the GIS too much. I don't really use them for my work. It's all, pick an auger. So that's the way I do them. Are you thinking that my delineation showed more area or less?
No, well, first of all, I was just surprised to see the GIS depicted on the plan, because I don't usually see that, but, and so I guess I was curious as to why it was there, but no, the only reason I ask is because I want to be sure that, it's clear that the wetlands that you're talking about where there's no impact is your delineation, which is on the ground and was done recently, whereas the delineation that's shown with the GIS depiction does actually show a fill in the wetland, because it's not really a wetland apparently. So that
Yep.
becomes incredibly important, and particularly when we come to the discussion about as of right. So I just want to be sure that that's on the record as.
Oh, okay, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, well, thank you. You can take my delineation to the bank. You can't take the GIS to the bank at all.
Joe, so, we're here really for the wetlands. You've been out there, you've walked around, you've spoken with Rick, you've seen the flags, you know where the construction is planned to go, you've seen the road. Is there any concern that we might have with, potential detrimental impacts to the wetlands? I guess that's my question.
Hang on a second, because I'm trying to write and talk at the same time, and it's just gonna go really
Yep.
bad. Yeah, I mean, as far as, looking at this site, the whole field area and everything where everything's being proposed is generally flat. They are constructing some reasonable slopes along the perimeter. I guess it's on the east side of the site. It's hard to tell. I've never seen a north arrow indication like this. It doesn't even remotely look like an arrow, but I'm guessing up is north. But so the western side of the site, they're creating some steep slopes. But I think provided that the E&S measures are properly installed and maintained throughout the time frame of the construction operation, I really don't see any impacts there. As far as stormwater, I think, it's a really, really good system. I've seen these same systems used in Chaplin, or proposed in Chaplin as well. And, they do infiltrate. So yeah, I guess my answer is no. I really don't see any negative impacts. Again, provided that, the plan's followed and, the initial phase of stumping and cutting the timber, provided the E&S measures are put in at the perimeter, the limits of work, the limits of clearing, I don't really see any direct impacts to wetlands. I concur with what Rick said.
Luther, if the project were to go forward, about how long would it take, and when would you, most reasonably begin the work?
So we would begin immediately. I would start in with ENS measures ASAP so that we can get in there before we have a lot of underbrush to fight our ways through from the summer growths. And then we would commence clearing, grading, and stabilization. So the goal would be to do all the bulk site work quickly and get those slopes established, get vegetation growing on them to stabilize them, and then move forward with the foundation and building construction. So that would sort of be my plan at this point. I'm certainly willing to take input on if there's a better way that we can do that. I'd love to hear about it. But my thought being, if we can work on this rapidly, try to get this as something that we can do in a period of a couple of months, and then get those slopes stabilized, and then move back into tactical excavation for the foundations and things like that, then we have less total disturbed area at one time. Does that make sense? Am I answering that adequately?
And a total time?
it's somewhat dependent on availability of materials. So we're looking at total time frame for construction or for disturbed ground.
Well, from the beginning of construction, which theoretically you would start soon, then you're gonna have 2 months of site work, basically, stabilizing and all that, and then the actual construction of the structures.
Yes.
So that would take what, 6 months, 3 months?
Outside estimate would be 6 months if we're
Okay.
able to get materials faster, and then we want to be done faster. But I would
Okay.
not want to make promises of 3 months and then have to answer as to why it
Yeah.
took longer.
But so it's gonna be a kind of project that once you start it, you're gonna continue until it's completed.
Yes,
Right?
this is
You're not-
this project is sort of my purpose for the next until it's done. I'll be overseeing the entirety of site work, construction, all of it. And so, yes,
Okay. Have you done one of these before anyplace else?
there's one of these farms, slightly different design. We modified the design to fit our property better. But there's one of these farms that's been functioning for about 18 months in upstate New York with really, really good results. And there's another one of these farms, similar, again, different because site constraints are different everywhere you go, that has been fully permitted for Mansfield. And so this is a very similar project to that one, except I think we're further from wetlands than Mansfield was.
Okay. So that one's permitted, but it has no construction has started in Mansfield?
That's correct. The construction for that one has not commenced. We're gonna likely be the first one. And also just for context, I don't know if it's appropriate or not, but I have a reasonable background in construction and earthwork and site work. I was a crew leader for Mansfield Public Works, building roadways, doing fairly large scale complex projects for them. And this is a bit in my wheelhouse, and it's our property. This property is everything to us. So I'm going to be fairly on point for managing the project.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so Joe, as far as the information that has been presented so far, are you satisfied that all of the pertinent information like the ENS measures, the cutting and the fill-in, I know there's no schedule in it, but maybe that at least those will be in the notes that you'll be prepared for us. Is there anything that you think that is lacking in any of the information that's been presented so far that we should add to it?
1 second, writing.
Yeah.
I guess the only thing that I see is on obviously on the north side of the prepared site plans. It shows the road coming in. I guess the only thing I would like to see would be maybe a little further detail in case anything else is going to be happening up there, immediately adjacent to the wetlands. We talked about the road being in place. If nothing definitive is going to happen to that road construction, I'm fine with that. But if something does have to happen, it does need to actually be widened or whatever. Sorry. That's not depicted. So I guess that's my only concern. But as far as the existing plans that they've submitted, the application, I feel it's a complete application. The only thing I have not done is calculate his fee, and that in order to do that, I need to know how this application is going to be processed, because it was going to be processed as a as I feel it should be as a permitted use as of right. That's kind of a different fee schedule than if it was going to be called a regulated activity and handled differently.
We have the wetlands report too.
I do not have a wetland delineation report. No.
Rick, is there one available?
I haven't done one, but I certainly could. Typically, if I make a presentation at a wetlands meeting, I don't do a report. And if I'm not going to be present at the meeting, I do a report. So, I mean, I didn't want to charge Luther for something that was not necessary. If it is necessary, I'll certainly.
Well, yeah, I mean, my concern, is we're, kind of getting into the as of right part of this thing. So I do want to explore, that as of right, qualification. But if we were to move in that sort of a direction, then I think that we should have something in writing regarding the wetlands along the lines which you've already discussed, in case that there was inquiries or anything, at least we can point to the wetland report as well as because we're just taking notes here, right? This is I guess that we are recording this too, though, right?
Yeah.
I guess we are. But anyway, I think, Luther, what do you think? I mean, would it be a problem if we had a short, wetland report kind of confirming everything that Rick has said so far, and just giving us, an extra layer of comfort that the wetlands are well protected, and that, that we, that this process will not, harm the wetlands in any way. And, there was a kind of, we weren't really sure, how far we were from the wetlands, that kind of stuff. I mean, I think we should sort of tighten up that sort of language, and that, the distance between the disturbed area and the wetlands is 100 feet, and that there will be no disturbance in that. And, and maybe just a quality of the wetlands that were, potentially could impact, it doesn't have to be exhaustive. I mean, like Rick said, he did give us a, an explanation of it, but I would feel better. So I don't know. What do you feel like, Luther? Would that be a problem, or?
Well, I'm certainly never going to tell you how to run your commission. So if that's a minimum qualification, then we will have to comply with that. I did want to touch base briefly on Joe's concern over whether there's going to be additional work that hasn't been depicted. We don't anticipate any. We have no plans to do any widening of that roadway. We have no plans to do any additional work as it comes closer to Varga. We intend to have that be status quo. So if Rick's detailed descriptions, again, like you mentioned, that we have on video, need to be supported through further documents, then that's the case. And you just need to let me know that and let Rick know that so that we can move in that
Okay,
direction.
well, all right. So Mike, what do you think? Do you want to have, a short description of the wetlands and the distance from the disturbed areas, and just some comfort knowing that the quality of the wetlands will not be diminished in any way because of this project, and that's something that you would feel comfortable with getting? Mike?
Oh, I'm sorry, Len, I didn't hear that you were asking me that question. Yeah, I would like, again, I do have some questions about that, and I guess I'm supposed to wait till the next meeting to ask that. But if Rick has that report, that's fine. I don't mind having that attached to the project. But I do have a question about whether there would be impact from the stormwater from this site to the wetlands. And again, I'm happy to talk about it whenever you'd like.
Well, if we take the route of this is an as of right use, there probably won't be another meeting. Right? If this is, not
I
an
see.
as of right use, then, we're just simply going to accept the application the way it is. And then, we'll take it up at the next meeting. So that's why I'm trying to be a little bit more thorough, even though it's the first time and there's quite a bit of information. And so,
I
but you
understand.
seem to think, okay, so you feel like a report and it would help you. Peter, what about you? Do you think, getting a little bit further comfort about the wetlands and impacts, would that help you, Peter?
I think he's covered it already. I mean, he said there's no impact. In fact, like Rick said too, there's no impact. And Joe said there's no impact. So I think it's all covered.
Yeah. How about
Well,
you, Cheryl?
I'm going to disagree with that, but again, when you would like to hear my thoughts on that, I'm happy to give them.
Yeah. We'll come back to you,
Sure.
Mike.
Maybe you guys, we
Cheryl?
can talk about the use of right question first, Lenny, and then come back if we need to, or
Yeah.
whatever you want to do is
Okay.
fine.
Let me hear from Cheryl.
So I'm not going to ask about the stormwater because Mike's going to ask about that. But, I see this as two paths. One is if it's an as of right project, which I'm not really certain about because I've never seen anything in the upland review area being discussed under as of right, only actual projects that are in the wetland. But for projects in the wetland, the most important thing is that there's no fill. No project can be as of right if there's fill, but that's mostly why I was trying to ascertain or get on the record the actual wetland delineation and the information that's shown on the plan, which doesn't show any fill in the wetland. And in addition to that, the description of the ENS controls, which is also a critical piece of that, so that no fill migrates to the wetlands. So if it's an as of use, I don't really have any further, concern about wetland impacts, because that doesn't enter into our decision as to whether it's used as of use project. But if it doesn't end up being that, then I would like to see a little bit better, I'd say, report that we can have in our files that discusses the stormwater impacts and the ENS impacts, or the ENS controls, which are the most critical things to me when we're talking about upland review area projects, because that's really where those impacts generally would come from. So that's really all I have.
Okay, so it looks like there would be some fill. I mean, he is going to bring in fill for the road, and part of the road or driveway is in the upland review area, so there would be some fill.
Right, but the question I have is, because the use of right statute was enacted long before anyone envisioned the upland review area ability to for towns to look at those. They were talking about direct wetland impact, direct fill in wetlands. An upland review area is not a wetland, so there's no nexus to me to draw on to be concerned about fill that's not actually in the wetland with regard to whether it's a use as of right. So, but I'm not a lawyer, so I have no idea.
Right. Okay. Well, let's talk about the use as of right. Now, I know we're talking about section 4. Luther, can you give us your take on how your project fits in with the permitted uses as of right, section 4 of our regulations?
Yeah, I can do that. So section 4 says grazing, farming, nurseries, gardening, and harvesting of crops as the introductory statement. And so this is a farming operation. This is a farming project. we're growing food in greenhouses on a farm. This is completely in keeping with the CGS, the Connecticut General Statutes 1-1Q definition of agriculture. We have it from the Department of Agriculture Commissioner himself has weighed in on this project and is, declared it agriculture on Zoom calls with us. And, so this is an agricultural project, I'm sorry. It is farming. And because it's an agricultural activity and farming, it seems to have a very clear association with the Article 4, Section 4, use as of right language in the wetlands regs. I don't know honestly how it could be outlined more clearly. I may not be speaking adequately to it. I'm not a professional presenter, so I apologize if I'm rambling, but yeah.
Can you expand a little bit more on your conversation with the Department of Environmental Protection? Who was it? When did you have?
So no, this was
Joe, write
Department of
this stuff
Agriculture.
down, please. Yep.
Yeah, so this was Department of Agriculture, considers this farming. So this is very, very well captured within Connecticut General Statutes 1-1Q as farming. So farming, farm buildings, growing of food, the processing, packaging, and distribution of food, the buildings associated with those activities are all considered by the state definition of agriculture to be farming. So,
okay. Go ahead, Rick.
Yeah, if I could interject a little bit, as a professional presenter, I have done a lot of these in towns across the entire state. And I've done some greenhouses as well, where commissions, in my experience, have drawn the line, is as Cheryl noted, with filling. So if Luther was trying to build a road across a wetland to access this, or if he was filling a wetland to put his building into place, it would not be considered a use as a right. However, in Luther's case, he is not proposing any fill whatsoever in any of the wetlands that I've delineated. As a matter of fact, he's a pretty fair distance from those wetlands. So it is my opinion that this is absolutely is a use as a right, because he's not doing any filling of any wetlands. The only place that you could say, well, maybe he's going to fill would be the road itself. And he's told you that I've told you that it's not a wetland. That the area adjacent to the road on either side is wetland. But the road itself is not a wetland. It has adequate amount of fill in it. And it was done long enough ago to not be a wetland. So he can add fill to that. He just can't widen it. He can't expand it. He can't put fill in any of the wetland areas that have been flagged. So that's my opinion. It's got to go to the group, and you guys have got to kind of determine what your take on this is, but that's the way other towns have handled it.
Joe, are you good with that? Could you write that down? I'd like to see that, as part of our minutes, what Rick just mentioned.
I'm getting most of it. Yep.
Okay. Now, let me ask you something. In that section 4.1A, it says the provisions of this subdivision shall not be construed to include road construction or the erection of buildings not directly related to farming operation. So the building itself, where you're washing and packing and all that, is that building have to be where it is? Could that building be, outside the upland review area? What do you feel about that?
So that building is outside the upland review area. That building is the easternmost building in the project. It's 360 feet from one end of the greenhouse to the other. So Our greenhouses are 75 feet from the delineated wetlands. We're 360 feet to the end of that greenhouse. There's a 14-foot building on the end of that. And then we have our utility building. And it actually is critical that that building be attached to the greenhouses so that we can meet our clean food standards for FDA to be able to take that food from the greenhouses into the washing room and then into cold storage to get the temperature on the food products down cold enough, rapid enough for it to then be acceptable.
And Rick, you agree that that accessory building there is outside of the upland review area?
I think it is. I think Luther could speak to that better than I.
Let me just double check, folks, so that
Yeah,
we're not
please.
making statements. Yeah, as depicted, we are 10 feet outside of upland review with the closest corner of that building.
Good, okay. All right.
And also, just for the record, I would also, I'm also of the position that that building, as in 4.1A, is directly related to the farming operation.
Right. Okay. So, Cheryl, do you have any further concerns whether or not this is an as of right use?
As I said, I don't have experience when a project is in the upland review area, but I do agree that from what's been described, it meets the criteria in the statute for use of right from all perspectives, as far as I can tell.
Okay. So Joe, just
1 minute.
okay, sorry.
Joe.
Cheryl, could you restate that last comment you made?
You're asking.
You were concerned that it
I
meets.
said 5 minutes ago. No.
You got an
said-
echo on my phone here, so.
Sorry. Okay, let me think again. As I said, I don't have experience with projects in the upland review area as a state employee. However, from what I've heard tonight, the description of the project and the aspects of the project meet the requirements of the as of right description in the state statutes and in our regulations, which are the same as state statutes. So.
Okay.
You up to?
Okay.
Okay. So Joe, what I'm hearing then is that based on what Cheryl said, what you've said, what Rick said, and what the applicant has said, is that everybody seems to be in agreement that this project meets the Section 4 permitted uses as of right in our regulations, and that the explanation that we've been given regarding the wetlands, the quality of it, the distance from it, all seems to indicate that we feel like we're pretty well protected. And then, of course, your physical, walking this site and viewing the area, you have no concerns for the commission as far as wetland impacts. Is that pretty accurate?
Yeah.
Okay, so what I'd like to do.
A little more concisely, but yeah, I do. I do concur. Yes.
Okay, so what I want to do, Joe, I want to make this. I don't want to burden you, but I do want to make sure that when the notes are finally completed, that there should be some kind of a statement at the end of it all, sort of summarizing generally what I've just said. All right.
That would be in the form of a motion by the commission stating that you as a commission feel that this meets Section 4 for the following reasons. You follow me?
Yeah.
You would explain, whoever's making the motion would explain why you feel that this unequivocally meets section 4, based on the applicant's comments, based on the plan, based on the testimony of commission members, the wetlands agent, et cetera. That would be your statement.
Okay. All right. Okay, so one last time then, I'd like to just go around the room. Does anybody have any further questions? Mike, you got anything more that you want to ask, or?
I do, yeah. So my question is mainly about the generation of stormwater from the site, and how I understand, the design of the system that was, that's described here, and how it is designed to handle the peak flow and match the peak flow from the pre-development condition. And maybe these things don't matter now that it's a use of right, but I'm still going to say it anyway. So the stormwater report references Ashford's zoning regulations, Article 60, Section 6, where it says they've met the no net runoff requirement for the town. And they've met the no net increase in peak runoff rate by utilizing that detention system. But that section in the zoning regulations states that both the peak and the volume of runoff should be maintained from the pre-development to the post condition. And those are two very different things. So that was the reason that I had asked Luther about that. What was the intent of that system? Was it truly detention just to try to deal with that peak runoff rate, or was it an attempt to capture that entire volume and try to infiltrate it? So my concern is that as a detention system, the way that works is, it's like I said, it's basically capturing those large events and metering it out slowly over a period of time. So those discharge points, although they are not directly in the wetland, that water is very close to the wetlands, like we said, maybe 50 feet away. So if we've got 10-year, 25-year, 50-year storms, the volume of water that's coming out of that system and exiting that system, if it's working perfectly right, is enormous. I just did some quick calculations here. We're talking about 480,000 gallons of water for a 100-year storm that's coming off of there. So it's enormous. It's an enormous quantity. So I'm not convinced that change in the hydrology of adding this impervious cover to this site would not have any impact on those wetlands that you delineated there, Rick. As it stands today, the rains that hits that entire site, even though they're sea soils, it's moving down slowly through the soil. Sure, you're going to get some surface runoff occasionally, but that water is traveling subsurface at a much slower rate than it would be happening when we're directing all this water from this detention system into there. So I do have concerns that it would negatively impact the wetlands that are at the north end of that site. And if there's nothing we can do about it at this point, since it's not in the wetland itself, I guess the best I could ask, Luther, is, and this is really for your protection too. I mean, I can tell you right now that if those grass areas in between the greenhouses, if you're leaving it as grass, that is going to erode so fast with that water coming off the roof of those buildings. It's going to sediment up those basins very quickly. That whole detention system is not going to function because it's going to clog up. So this is, you're going to end up having to just deal with the messiness of that. And, if this goes through as is, I would suggest at the very least, if there's nothing else that we can do to address my concerns here, at least you could try to do something in between there to, try to not have that be bare soil and have that erode and either fill up that system or wash off that steep bank that's to the west side. So, something to help dissipate that energy when that water is coming off the roof of those greenhouses is something that I would recommend. So, I'll stop talking now because I don't know that it matters anymore, but those are some of the concerns that I've had when reviewing this. So again, Luther, I appreciate this is a use of right. It's an agricultural use, but it's a big impervious commercial type building. And so that's why I asked the things I did.
If I can, so Mike, thank you for that. I never don't want to hear from smart people. So if there's something I can take, and I will, regardless of uses of right or not, I want to do this to the best of our ability. So I'll go back to Weston and Sampson. They're pretty smart people too, and I'll say to them, I need a little bit more detail on, my initial thought was that we would be able to get stabilization of that soil from, a fairly low roof line, water discharge, and things of that nature. Grass is profoundly strong with those things, but I hear what you're saying about your concern of impact. And so if that means that we have to have an impact area that is some trap rock or something like that, so that we don't have the potential of erosion, or I'll leave that to the engineers. I'm not an engineer. Full disclosure, I'm far from an engineer. So I'll leave that to people smarter than me, but I will certainly take it under advisement and bring that back to the engineers. And we want to do this well. So I appreciate the input.
All right. Thank you, Mike. So anybody else have any final questions or comments?
And Luther, I'm happy to chat with you about the project too. Meet you at the site if it's helpful too.
I appreciate that.
No problem.
Okay. So seeing none, let me start by just asking, or maybe I could start the end of this. Okay. So and I'm going to look for some help to fill in the blanks. Okay. So I believe that this project is a use as of right. And I believe that it is a use as of right based on the stormwater management plan, the application, the project description, the site plan, the testimony from the wetland consultant, and then our discussion regarding our understanding of Section 4 in our regulations, and I feel that that it does meet the criteria of a use as of right. And I would add that the testimony from the, well, I guess you're not the applicant, but you're the applicant's representative, right, Luther?
That's a fair representation.
Okay, so based in addition to the information that's been presented and the testimony of the wetland consultant, as well as the construction sequencing, the construction timeline, and the testimony of our wetland consultant, Joe, especially because he did do a physical inspection of the property. He did discuss the wetlands with the wetland consultant. He did view the area that's going to be disturbed, and further, he has an understanding of what protections have been presented so far that would lead us to believe that the wetlands are well protected, for a project of this nature. I would like to add that if the project is approved based on what I've just outlined, then I would like to have the project inspected by our wetlands agent, before, after, and during the whole process, and then have him report back to us, over the months, because it looks like it could be up to 8 months of work, maybe more. And I would like to know how the process is going, even though it isn't as of right. It is a substantial project, and it's going to take a long time. And I think it's important for us to keep tabs on how the progress is going. So now, So I've made that motion. Does anybody want to add? I'll just go around the room. Mike, we're just talking about a motion to approve the project as of right with these, with these items in mind. Have anything to add to what I just said?
I don't.
Okay. Peter,
Yeah, I will second that then.
okay. Cheryl,
I guess
Cheryl?
I guess I would just add that, we believe
You're
that it's.
kind of cutting out, Cheryl. I
Oh.
can't hear you.
Okay, can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Yes, okay,
Yes, that's better.
okay.
Yeah,
I
that's better.
think that we
Yep.
want to be sure that we get on the record that we believe it's as of right, for the reasons that you mentioned, but also because it does not include road construction or erection of building not directly related to the farming operation. It does not include relocation of any water course with continual flow, and it does not include any filling of wetlands. And those are very important criteria to be sure that we agree with.
Okay,
Yeah.
very good. Joe, do you have any questions? Do you want to go over anything, or do you feel like you have the motion in hand? Joe? Joe, you still with us? Can you guys hear me?
Sorry,
Yes.
Lenny, I was on mute.
Oh.
Yeah, you were kind of all over the place there. You did a good description, but you didn't tell me it was going to be a motion until you were all done talking for 2 paragraphs.
Oh,
So I scribbled down as much as I could.
I
got
kind of wrote it down. If you want me to go over it very quickly, I could.
Well, I just let me try to read through this.
Okay.
I don't like being blindsided and trying to be a wetlands agent, and trying to be a secretary at the same time.
I know
It doesn't work.
I don't know what happened to Valerie tonight, but I'll have to give her a call.
So what you basically stated was that you believe that it was an as of right based on the stormwater management plan, the site plan, testimony by wetland consultants, description of the project. You said it was your understanding that it does meet the criteria of section 4. Again, based on testimony of the wetland consultant and the wetlands agent, Joe. The physical aspects of the site, you talked with the consultants. Your understanding that wetlands would be protected as stated on the plans. You were concerned that if the project was approved or considered as of right, you would be wanting inspections by the agent with the reports back due to the fact that the project could go from plus or minus 8 months of work. Then
Yeah.
I got after that, I got Peter was a second. You asked Cheryl, she had to add anything, and Cheryl, you're gonna have to restate some of that because I was scribbling furiously, but I got that you concurred that it was an as of right, provided that. And all I got was that there were no relocations of watercourses, but I know you said a couple things prior to that.
Right, and I'm actually just reading, from the wording that make this legal, that this project does not include road construction or the placement of buildings that are not directly related to agriculture, to the farming operation. You already caught that it does not include a relocation of a water course, and it does not include filling of wetlands.
Or does.
Yep.
Filling. Okay, so does not include road constructions or buildings that are
not directly related.
What's the wording? Crucial to the farming operation? Is that
No,
the technical?
The wording is actually that doesn't include buildings that are not directly related to the farming operation.
Not directly related. That's what I thought it was. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so we have a motion, we have a second, we had some additional comments made. Peter, you're going to re-second this motion?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Any further questions, comments, or anything you want to add to the motion, anybody? Okay, then let's take a vote. All those in favor of the application, the motion as presented and amended, let me know by, well, can't see all of you, but, okay, so we got a
Aye.
Peter, a Cheryl,
Aye.
Mike, you in agreement? And I'm in agreement. Okay, so it's unanimous. And I guess that's it.
Did Mike vote, Pete?
Yeah, he did. He said
Lenny?
yes. Yes, he said
Okay.
yes. And Peter too. All four of us.
Okay.
Okay. All right, Luther, thank you for helping us out tonight. Did a great job. I really appreciate it.
Well, I really have to commend you all. You all did I think a really good job of doing your homework and taking this seriously. I serve on the Planning and Zoning Commission. I know what a thankless job it is to serve on these commissions at times, and you guys conducted yourselves admirably, and I really appreciate your time.
Well, thank you for that. Okay, let's move on. So before we get to the agent's report, or maybe we'll go to agent's report, but I do want to introduce someone tonight. This is Bob Broussard. Bob's been I've been talking to Bob since last year, and he has been interested in our commission, and he has expressed an interest to become an alternate member. And he did give me a little bit of a bio on himself. He's also been on the Ashford ZBA as an alternate for a couple of years, and he was on the Board of Finance in Stafford for a few years before coming to Ashford. He moved into Ashford not that long ago, built himself a house, and is loving the place, I guess, right, Bob?
That's exactly right, yes.
So, Bob, you want to just introduce yourself a little bit, maybe, and just tell us
Sure.
a little more about yourself?
Absolutely. So I'm a native-born Staffordite. So I lived there through high school and left and moved into Enfield for 18 years, and then proceeded to move to various locations around the country following business opportunities. By trade, I am an operations person, specifically in the manufacturing arena. Been involved in manufacturing with a number of very large companies, UTC, Barnes Corporation, the Federal Mogul, and Schott, which was the company that I just left. I retired in February of 2021, and I've been working on my honeydew list for the last year and pretty much done with that. And because I've always sought for ways to contribute, it was I happened to bump into Bill Folletti one day, and he told me that he knew that I had come in a very close second in the last election, where I was part of the ZBA before, and wanted to go from an alternate position to a full-time position, or a regular position. I'm sorry, excuse me, and lost the election by 10 votes, and it was disappointing for me because I enjoyed the activity and enjoyed the involvement, and I wanted to contribute to the town that as Lenny just said, that I love so much. My wife and I have been absolutely thrilled to be here since 2014. That's when we moved into town. We actually bought here in 2011, bought the property. In any case, I'd like to echo the comments of Luther a few minutes ago. I've been part of commissions, been part of boards before, and this was a very impressive demonstration of the dedication that you all show to the task at hand. As a lifelong sportsman, the environment is very important to me, and it clearly is important to all of you, and you take it very seriously, and I thank you all for that. My background has nothing to do with wetlands. I've never been involved in it, but I've been involved in the contract side of many different contracts, construction contracts, performance contracts for many, many years, built manufacturing sites, but not necessarily relative to wetlands. So what I could bring to the table really has nothing to do with not previous knowledge of wetland structures, wetland regulations. But I can promise that if you all see fit to let me join your group, I'm a very fast learner, and I think it would be extremely exciting and rewarding to be part of it.
Great.
Bob,
Thank you very much, Bob.
Bob, this is Joe Thoreau, the wetlands agent. Can I get a spelling on your last name for the minutes?
Yes, it's Brisard.
Okie dokie. Thanks.
Mike, you have any questions for Bob? Okay, Rick,
No, I'm
how
all set,
about
man.
Rick? You got any questions for Bob?
No, I don't.
Rick?
No, I don't have any questions for Bob. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think Len might be cutting in and out, maybe.
Okay.
Since he's gone, I would be pleased to have someone with a lot of construction experience on the commission. I think it's really helpful when someone can look at a plan and kind of know what it's going to look like on the ground. So
Thank you.
I think we just lost him
I think so.
altogether. Rick, can you take over for a minute?
Oh. Yeah. I don't know what happened. I expect he'll be back shortly. But yeah, I concur that it'd be great to have you. We're always looking for good people.
Well, thank you.
I think
Is
Cheryl's.
this, since we're waiting for Lenny to come back, can I ask you all a question? When I was on the zoning board of appeals, it has a very infrequent meeting scheduled every month, but cancels most months because of lack of business. Is that it seems to be similar here for the Wetlands Commission?
Yeah. Before you
I'm gonna
answer that,
answer,
Rick, before you answer that, I just want to let you know that Len called and he said he's lost his internet altogether. So just
Okay, no problem. I can take over. Okay, I can answer Bob by saying, although the last couple of meetings have been canceled, it's not common. I would say we have 90% of the time we have meetings, maybe 95%. I think one of the things that has helped the frequency of meetings for me has been Joe. He has been able to do some approvals on his own. And he's been a tremendous help to the commission. I think it's wonderful because a project like we talked about tonight is huge. And we need to have meetings. We need to have extensive discussions. But a lot of the stuff that comes before us can definitely be handled by Joe. And it's asking a lot of us as commissioners to, come into the town hall and spend 3 or 4 hours over something that is something that Joe can handle very, very nicely. So,
Okay. Well, it's good to hear that there's enough activity to keep everyone interested and energized about it, which is always important. When I was part of the Board of Finance, there's always something going on with the Board of Finance, and there was never any shortage of work or interesting things to be dealing with.
the commission's come a long way. I can remember I've been involved in this since, I would say since '94. And we used to have meetings that would go well past 11 o'clock at night, and those were tough. We've gotten much better and proceed far more efficiently than we used to. So, yeah, I think it's pretty rewarding. Yeah.
I just
Any other
also
Very
wanted-
comments?
impressive. Thank you all.
Go ahead,
I
Cheryl.
also wanted to mention that I don't think you're on the email that I sent around, but I had been kind of asked to keep an eye on one of our particular associations that we belong to and get that information out. And one of the things that I sent out just last week was the link to the DEEP website, which offers online training for Wetlands Commission members. And so there's a really good opportunity there to learn about how the wetlands work and all that kind of stuff. So I'll make sure I get that to you.
Oh, excellent. Thank you.
Yep. So let's see, where are we? We were in agents report, I think is the next on our agenda, number 6. Joe?
Yep. Basically, all I have, somebody asked some questions about 96 Knott Highway. As you guys know, we issued them a letter not long ago, basically explaining that we haven't seen any activity go on over there and that they were basically not in compliance with their with their application and what they agreed to do. I believe tonight I just spoke today with an individual who's going to be representing 96 Knott Highway. I don't know if he's on or not. Mr. Fontana, are you with us tonight? Okay, evidently not. So today, Mr. Fontana reached out and explained to me that he's the individual now that will be handling, I guess, the compliance with our permit we issued. The individual, Mr. Gaudette, that did most of the testimony and talking with us, does not work for the company anymore. So today I forwarded Mr. Fontana pretty much all of the application materials, all the correspondence, all the letters from basically from day one. So which he asked me for because he wanted to be brought up to speed. He asked me if he needed to attend the meeting. I said it would be a very good idea. I said because essentially the commission just wants to hear that that the project is going to go forward and that they were going to do the things that they needed to do to comply, specifically the construction of the fence, the wetlands plantings, etc. So that's where we're at with that. I'm hoping that we're going into the spring season here. They can do that. I could reach out if you guys prefer to talk with George Logan, who was their wetland scientist that basically did the wetland planting plan, and see if he's on board to supervise that. That's all I have.
Yeah, thank you, Joe. Yeah, I mean, I think it'd be great to have a conversation with Joe and make sure that he's on board and promises to assist with this thing. It really needs to be brought to fruition. So, yeah, if you could reach out to George, I think it's not my decision, but I think if everyone else agrees that that's the route that we should take. Does everyone else agree?
Yeah, I think that I'm not sure if George is still involved with the project. I guess it depends on if they've retained him to continue on. But It'd be really nice to know that
Yeah.
someone who is actually knows what they're doing is involved in getting those plantings in. And I go by that site several times a day. And it's always, I always peek around to see if anything's happening back there, but of course it couldn't have happened over the winter anyway. But we really need to stay on, and I really appreciate, Joe, that you've stayed on top of this, because and that you've reached out to the new person who's in charge, because they need to understand, I think, that, if they don't get it done, really pretty much by next month, that, or by maybe June, we're gonna need to pack it on up and, in the words of Lenny, send it on, package it up and send it on to the attorney for action. So it can't drag on any further.
Mike, do you have any feelings on this in terms of George Logan?
No, I think that sounds good. I agree.
And Peter? Peter?
Yes, good.
Okay, well, Joe, if you could reach out to him or to whoever, I think it'd be appropriate. Good,
Okey-dokey.
okay. Any members' comments? With that, I'd like to entertain adjournment.
I move we adjourn.
Second,
Second.
that's it. Thank you, guys.
Good night.
Time for dinner.
Good night.
Good night.